Hello and welcome back to the Chelsea debate. We do a slightly different video today. We're going to build our all-time 11 of the Roman Abramovich era. As always, joining me, Josh Langford. Josh, you okay?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thanks.
Good stuff. And we've got a special guest with us today, Mr. Jack Eagle. Jack, thanks for coming on the channel. Are you okay?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant to have you, and I hope you're both excited. It's something a bit light-hearted, bit of fun today. I'm going to build our 11. Got some brilliant players to put in. Let's start with the goalkeepers. We'll dive in. Josh, who is your goalie? I suspect this might be one of the easier positions we do, but go on.
It can only be one man, can't it? Peter Cech. So, yeah, no debate.
That's it. That is just concrete. That's it.
That is it. Yeah, it's done, mate.
What made Petr Cech so special? Come on.
He's just an absolute legend, isn't he? You know, he's played a massive role in us winning the Champions League, which was obviously the main objective of when Roman Abramovich came in. So yeah, no, he's an absolute club legend, and we've featured him in previous videos. He's, you know, the best goalkeeper that the Premier League's ever seen.
Yeah, he is. People might argue, but that's our opinion here. Jack, I assume you're in the same way.
I absolutely concur with Josh too. It has to be Peter Cech. 202 clean sheets, Premier League record. To be honest, he'd probably go in a Premier League 11, never mind just a Chelsea 11. So I think it's, quite concrete there. Got to be Petr Cech.
No honourable mentions for Kepa or anyone? Josh, did anyone come into the thought process or just one man?
I was always a fan of Cudicini, but obviously he's not on Peter Cech's level, is he? So, yeah, no, there's only one man for the job.
Courtois, he had a good, I know it ended a bit sour, but he was good, wasn't he? Thibaut Courtois.
He was good, but again, it's just about levels, isn't it? And he's not on that level. It's a bit contradictory because I've got some other players in my 11 that weren't at Chelsea so long, but Courtois wasn't good enough for a long enough period of time to come into my thinking, really.
All right, pretty concrete then. We'll put Cech in the team straight away. Let's go, Jack, to you now. Left back. Who have you got?
Again, this was probably one of the easier positions for me. I went for Ashley Cole. I think he was instrumental in the Champions League win, especially the game against Barcelona. The goal line clearance was absolutely phenomenal. And it's just the consistency for Cole for me. Not many mistakes as a fullback, really good defensively and going forward. In for England as well. I know this is for Chelsea, but he was probably one of the most consistent England players. And yeah, his levels, he was always a 7 or 8 out of 10 at least. So for me, it has to be Cole.
Yeah, I agree with that. He always had a case, didn't he? Turn up in the big games. And there are very few players maybe that you could say spanning over a decade were the best in the world in that position. And perhaps Ashley Cole is the one player we've had who's right at the top of that. Josh, who have you got a left back? Do you agree?
Completely agree. Yeah, Ashley Cole, isn't it? Thanks for taking some of my points, Jack. So, yeah, no, couldn't add anything more to that. Yeah, he was brilliant, wasn't he? And I think, you know, when he came over, Arsenal fans were particularly bitter towards him, and I think that's, if anything, just testament to how good he actually was. Because he came over to Chelsea, and that was the start of Arsenal's decline in reality.
Do you know what? This is meant to be the Chelsea debate, but I think they are the two easiest positions. So hopefully it hots up now. But yeah, Ashley Cole in the team, straight in there. Okay, I suspect it will get a bit closer now. Maybe we'll get some arguments because we're going to go over to right back. Josh, we'll go to you. Who is your right back and why?
I've gone Azpilicueta. I suspect there might be some debate, but I think how consistent he's been, you know, since he came in back in 2012. And I also, when I did this, I tried to look at transfer fees as well. And I know it's relative to the time, depending on when they came in. But at £7 million, he's such a bargain. So, you know, when you look at how many games he's played for Chelsea and what he's contributed, and he chips in with some important goals quite consistently. So, yeah, he was it for me. I would like to just give an honourable mention to Paulo Ferreira. I know, again, early days, but he was always, when, you know, Jose came, he was part of that team that was, dominant for a couple of years, wasn't he? So, but no, Azpilicueta for me.
Interesting. Jack, do you agree?
I don't actually. The right back I've put in my team is Branislav Ivanovic. So for me, this was probably the hardest position because Ivanovic and Azpilicueta share so many similarities. They're both very versatile. They both had similar appearances for club. And they've both sort of been a captain sort of material. I know Azpilicueta is now, but Ivanovic was a big leader on the pitch as well, and he gave some really big moments. And I think the big moments that Ivanovic provided, like the header the finish against Napoli to go through in the Champions League, I think that probably tips it for me because on the pitch they're both very similar, very good defensively, but Ivanovic for me, just for moments and just that Champions League win once again, I think that was just incredible. But yeah, Azpilicueta up there, and he's very unlucky not to make my team.
It's funny you mentioned it because I put it out on the Twitter earlier about that Ivanovic moment because we obviously got the last 16 coming up with Atletico. Right, this is the first tough one because in the event of this, I'm going to ultimately put the player in the team, and it is very close. I'm not sure. Josh, can you sway me any more on Azpi?
I don't need to. You know, it makes sense. I know you're a massive fan of Azpilicueta. He's brilliant. He's still there now, which I know obviously age is a factor in that, but perhaps wrongly. But I've also thought, at the minute and going forward, his leadership qualities and what he's contributing to the team is crucial. So, in a time where Chelsea's changed a bit and we've got some youth coming through, I think he's going to be a massive part of sort of blooding them all in and hopefully launching Chelsea into another successful decade with the team that we're getting.
Do you know what? He's brilliant for Azpilicueta. He's a captain, and there was a time he's the best one-on-one defender in the league, in my opinion anyway. He can play on the left as well, so versatile. We've seen him in a back three. He's really grown into a big leader. I suspect when he came in, not a lot of fans would have thought, he would develop into that sort of player, but he really has. I know you're my regular co-host here, but I am going to have to go against you here and go with the special guest, Jack, with Branislav Ivanovic. For the reasons he mentioned, he was just a huge influence. He was part of that core leadership. When you think of Drogba and Terry and Cech, Ivanovic was right at the centre of that. He was a massive leader. Again, versatile, can play in the middle if we need. I just slightly prefer the power over maybe. That's just the way I see it anyway. I'm going to go with Jack on Ivanovic. So we'll put Ivanovic in at right back, but Azpilicueta, I think we'll put him on our bench because he can play on the left or right back. So I feel quite bad for that.
No, he deserves better than that.
We're going to go Ivanovic. Let's move on to the centre backs. We'll do them both together. Josh, do you want to go first on your two centre backs? Yeah,
this was really easy, but at the same time felt quite harsh being so easy. I've gone Terry and Carvalho. Just they were so consistent, possibly the best pairing in the league at the time for a good number of years for me. And obviously we won a lot of trophies with them at the back. So yeah, no, it's quite easy for me, that one.
I suppose if you're looking at it as a partnership, yeah, definitely. Jack, have you gone the same way? Because there are definitely some other centre-backs that would come into the equation, or have you gone down the same thought process as they're the two I'd want in as a partnership?
So for me, there was one very easy one. For me, Terry had to be in there for his captaincy. And not just that, he was incredible as a player, but he brought the best out of everyone next to him as well. If you think of all the partnerships that Chelsea have had, which have been successful in the Abramovich era, Terry has been alongside the other centre-half. Yeah. So Terry's always been a big role in it. So it's about bringing the best out of others as well with Terry, as well as obviously his standards being very high. I did also go for Carvalho for similar reasons to Josh. 15 goals in the 04-05 season with Petr Cech in goal was conceded. He's very, very good, and it's going to be difficult to beat that for any team. But I also want to give a big shout out to Gary Cahill as well. Cahill for me was very, very underrated in the Premier League at the time he was playing, and now when you look back on him, he got three out of the 4 player of the seasons, in team of the years between 2013 and 2017, which just shows his individual standard was as high, even if the team was playing high as well. But for me, it just about has to be Carvalho, just for how good that defence was in the 04-05 season and ahead of that time.
Yeah, I think there was that point where it looked like, are Liverpool going to break that record, that clean sheet, defensive record, but they didn't get near at the end. And I can't see anyone beating it. Of course, we had prime Czech as well, but those two as a partnership, they just understood each other so well. Cahill, though, I'd like to talk about him quickly because he came in, if you remember, during the Champions League crisis during that season, and he came in from Bolton. People didn't expect it, and he's always going to be compared to Terry in a way, just in terms of the style. It's not really fair to compare anyone to JT, and I think if he wasn't in this team, everyone would just turn the video off because obviously JT was going to be in the team. But Cahill, very underrated, like you say, and big moments. He was there. He was in that Champions League team, and anyone that was in that team, not sure about Ryan Bertrand, but most of those deserve, a place. You couldn't really argue if they were in the team. So I know you've both gone the same, but Josh, Gary Cahill, like Jack says, deserves a special mention, doesn't he? Because brilliant.
No, he does deserve a mention, but I just think all things considered, and when you look at, as Jack pointed out, the only 15 goals conceded, you can't overlook that. For me, it's just, numbers don't lie sometimes, and Cahill does deserve a mention. He is a bit of a legend, but yeah, Terry and Carvalho just hands down. I do understand the argument, but yeah, no, it's quite simple.
Right, well, I agree with you both. Let's put them in. So we've got a back five now. We've got Czech in goal, Ivanovic, Josh, Carvalho, Terry, and Cole. Okay, that's our defence sorted. And that's how I thought it was going to go, to be honest. But I suspect that won't be the same now because we're going to move into the midfield. What we'll do is we'll start with the defensive midfielder, if that's okay. So I'm assuming you both got one. Jack, have you got a defensive midfielder in your team?
Yeah, so for me, it was kind of easy, but there is a special mention. So Makelele for me was one of the first people on my team. I just think he almost created that role himself in world football. He just having him at the heart of that midfield allowed everyone else around him more attacking flair. He was almost the guy which just mopped up after everybody, started off every attack, and was the one to intercept every opposition attack too. He just covered so much ground, and at the time that was such an unpopular role in football that I think he discovered it. I mean, they say CDM actually stands for Claude Makelele because he was that good and he created it. But obviously Kante as well, when he came in for Chelsea, he deserves a special mention because he'd just come off the back of Leicester's title-winning team, which he was instrumental. And then obviously he went to Chelsea and won the league there as well, playing an absolutely pivotal role in that. And I think it's just consistency with those two players in particular, that they hardly ever let the team down. They're pretty much always on the team sheet when they're available. They're just very consistent players, and I think that's what makes a top player and a top CDM.
Yeah, he was definitely, he was world class. There's no denying it, Makelele, because he was in that Real Madrid team, and when he left, they missed him so much. Sort of, we're 25, 26 now, so that's when we were getting into football. People that are a bit younger maybe don't remember him as well, but it says a lot when a position is named after you. That's how effective he was. Be interesting to see which way you've gone, Josh, on it. In your CDM, have you got Makelele or someone else?
I've actually gone Kante with a mention of Makelele. So again, I echo the same things Jack said. Makelele for me, everything Jack's just said. He was brilliant, wasn't he? He sort of did the hard work for the team. As again Jack said, it enabled other players to show off their attacking talents while giving an anchor to the team. But for me, just with our age, really, I think, I didn't fully get to appreciate Makelele, which, then gives it more for Kante for me. Again, he was instrumental, as Jack again pointed out, in Leicester's title win. And then when he came to Chelsea, I just think he just gave such a calming presence in the middle of the park. Again, the amount of running he does and hard work. I think he's brilliant. So I've just gone Kante, but you have got to mention Makelele. But if you pick Makelele, no one could argue with it, could you? It's one of those, both have got such a legitimate shout to be in the team that, either way.
Oh, that's tough. Trying to decide. I'm not chucking him sort of, that he should be in the team, but Matic was a good player for us. I'm not saying he's on the level of either of those two, but in that season, alongside Kante, in the Conte season, he was a brilliant player, and he's been a good player at United. So not quite on the same level, but I thought I'd give a little mention to him. It's tough. You'd say, wouldn't you, Jack, that maybe Kante is a bit more of an engine. He's certainly not a box-to-box player, and you like him in that holding role, but slightly different to Makelele, wasn't it? Slightly different.
I agree. Completely agree. Kante, I've never seen a player run as much as he does on a football pitch. It's ridiculous. He can cover pretty much the whole defence and the whole midfield at the same time. For me, it was more evident in the Leicester title-winning team that was, because Kante and Drinkwater were just, as a two, they were outrunning three opposition midfielders at times. But yeah, I think since football's moved on a bit more, there is more emphasis on more running now. And I'm not saying Kante wouldn't have done that 20 years ago when Makelele was maybe in his prime. But yeah, I think there's slightly different eras, and I think there's more of an emphasis in football now on working hard. The top teams do it, Liverpool do it, Man City do it now. So yeah, Kante he obviously is incredible, but for me, Makelele just shaded it.
Oh, it's difficult. Oh, it is difficult. I'm not sure. I've given one to Jack already. Do I? I'm going to side with Jack again. I am sorry. I'm going to go Makelele. I did build a team, but I sort of wanted to see what you two did.
Who did you put?
I put Makelele in my team. Yeah. I think slightly more ahead for me as a player. Both incredible, but Makelele was the CDM in the world. He and I think it says it all, the position named after him. But love N'Golo now. And in terms of this season and the last season, there are times when people say he's finished. Not for me. It just won't surprise me if he keeps bouncing back again. Yeah, he's got to adapt now under a new manager once again, and people forget that with the change of manager at Chelsea, they just expect players just to, carry on at the same rate. I think we'll see the best from Kante still, and brilliant player. But yeah, we're going to go Makelele in that CDM, and this team's looking pretty familiar, but that's how much success we had. Okay, what we're going to do now is the two centre mids, just in front of Kante. I don't know if you can explain to me how you want to play them. You could play them as eights, one could be a 10 pushed further forward, whatever you like. Josh, we'll let you go, the two central midfielders, or explain to me how you want to build the team.
Yeah, well, I think, two central midfielders. I think one's going to be sort of unanimous in Frank Lampard. Club's top scorer. To be, consistently scoring sort of 20 goals a season from midfield, it's unheard of. It's not really been done before. Will it ever be done again? He's just instrumental. He doesn't really need sort of much explaining for me. And then the other one, which I'm potentially expecting a little bit of comeback on, I've gone for Juan Mata. He wasn't at the club the longest, but when he was there, player of the season, contributed heavily towards winning some trophies. He's just brilliant. I think he's been a brilliant player in the Premier League overall. And obviously a good chunk of that's been at Man United. But he's just brilliant. His creativity, particularly for, not the fastest player in the world, but his creativity is it's incredible for me. I think he deserves to be there.
I think that's a controversial one. We'll see what the comments say. First of all, before we get into that, I love that you've said Mata and you've touched an emotional one there. We'll see how that goes. Jack, I'm assuming you've put Frank Lampard as one of your two midfielders. Do you want to give a quick line on Frank? Because I don't think I can go through. I can't explain it. I'm still a bit a bit upset. But let's talk about Frank the player, because that's what this team is.
Yeah, so Frank Lampard for me, I mean, amazing servant for the club. He was pretty much there throughout all the success that Chelsea have had under Abramovich.
Yeah.
He's just phenomenal. His numbers, like Josh say, I don't know if they'll be repeated in the Premier game from a midfielder. Just always seemed to find space in the box, timed his runs to perfection. Just a beautiful player to watch in the Premier League, whoever you support. And yeah, 20 goals in 5 consecutive seasons is just, from a midfielder, the consistency is just phenomenal. So yeah, Lampard was a shoo-in in my team also. But I've also had a controversial second central midfielder as well, I feel. So I've gone for Cesc Fabregas. I know he wasn't at the club for too long a period of time, and I know his standard probably towards the end wasn't as high as it was at the start. But for me, Fabregas is such a magician. On the ball, he was amazing. He was obviously part of the Conte team and the title-winning team 2 years before that when he came in. Just some of the assists that he gave as well. He's just such a good footballer on the eye, and everything seemed easy to him. And when he joined the club, I remember he was touted to go back to Arsenal, Man United were interested. All these top teams were interested. And I think it speaks volumes of how good a player you are when that many teams actually want your signature. But yeah, Fabregas, just absolutely phenomenal. The amount of assists he got, I think he got 6 assists in consecutive matches, which I think is a Premier League record. So yeah, for me, there's unlucky players like Michael Ballack, and Michael Essien as well. But for me, Cesc Fabregas, just for the beauty of the player, he's made my team.
Right, well, you two have completely thrown me off guard. I did build a team. I also built a B team in the case that either of you, disagreed. I didn't have either of your players in either of my teams, which I don't know if I'm missing something or I don't know. This is tough. So Frank is definitely in the team. We'll pop him in there because he's in the team, and he joined just before the Abramovich era. For me, the player of the Abramovich era. I know it sort of will divide opinion, but for me, the best player. But that's because Zola was just before. Maybe he'd be in the discussion. I don't know how we're going to do this because the 2 players I had Michael Ballack in my 11, and I had Michael Essien in my B team. So I expected those 2 players to come up. I know you've mentioned them there. How are we going to do this? Josh, you said Juan Mata. Can you see an argument for what Jack says in Fabregas, or are you willing to maybe bend on Ballack or Essien? How do you sort of see it?
Do you know what? I did a team, and then I did like a list of players that deserve a bit of a mention. And the 4 players we've just discussed, obviously, I've gone for Mata, Jack's gone for Fabregas, you've mentioned Essien and Ballack. They were my 4 players. So I can see arguments to and from either way. Again, I looked at value for money. Ballack came in for free. So there's that argument. Essien, scored some absolute worldy goals, and just his general play was brilliant as well. As Jack said, Fabregas, for me, Fabregas would have more of a shout in like a Premier League 11 in terms of his contribution with Arsenal as well. I just think for Chelsea, when he was good, he was out of this world. And then towards the end, sort of as it was alluded to, his standards perhaps dipped a little bit, which is why I went in for Mata myself, just because what he contributed to the club in such a short period of time. And I think as a fan base, we just fell in love with him. And, as you even said yourself, it was sort of an emotional one when he gets mentioned. And again, then what he's gone on to contribute, unfortunately not for Chelsea. But yeah, he's got to be in with a shout. So it's definitely those 4 players for me. And I can see arguments to them, for and against every one of them.
I mean, I had Ballack in mind, as you mentioned there, free transfer. He was just a colossus in midfield. I know we've got Makelele and Lampard in there. Well, when you add Ballack to that is leadership. That is power. He can be a goal threat as well. He just was the all-round midfielder. So successful elsewhere as well. Really rated him. Michael Essien as well. The Bison, they called him. Absolute powerhouse, wasn't he? He had a bit of everything. Really powerful player.
I think the beauty of those 4 players for me is that they're all sort of different types of players. For me, Ballack, obviously a lot of height, a lot of presence, leadership, like you said, box to box. Essien, just an absolute powerhouse. Scored some unbelievable goals, like the Arsenal goal was incredible. And Fabregas and Mata, they're just magicians of the ball at the feet. So very different players as well. Mata's probably a bit further up the pitch in his Chelsea time as well, in terms of where he played. So I think there's maybe arguments for all of them, like you say. I think maybe Ballack does deserve to be in. I know I've picked Fabregas, but I'd be willing to put Ballack in that team.
Willing to bend.
I'm saying on Mata, just because you two obviously know me and how much I love Mata, and I constantly get stick off a Manchester United mate of mine who he's literally the other day sent me a picture of Mata in a United kit, and that crushed me. But do you remember the season he set up 35 goals in all competitions? I think it was 19 goals and set up 35 in an individual season. I never hear anyone talk about that, apart from Chelsea fans. That's an incredible record. He would be more in the sort of advanced role for me, though. I don't know, he was part of that Champions League team. Of course, he put the corner in, didn't he, for Drogba's header.
Can I just interject for 1 second before we make the decision?
I'm struggling here. I need something.
So obviously, I should have perhaps sort of elaborated on a little bit more, but obviously we sort of agreed before we did this that we'd sort of settle on a bit of a 4-3-3. And the reason I did put Kante in was because of the amount of distance he covers. I thought that then, with Lampard in and around him, that then gives Mata a bit more of a free licence to roam. So, you know, we're talking about him progressing more up the pitch. That's why I went for Kante, because it gives Mata that more coverage to be able to go and explore and create.
I love this, getting your tactics board out here.
Yeah.
But I mean, Makelele will cover it as well, the space. I suppose.
Not as well as Kante, mate. Come on.
I mean, Makelele's in the 11. Do you know what? I mean, I had Ballack in my team, but I don't want to sort of make this about me.
That's a change.
Yeah, I know.
Come on, 3, 2.
You know what? I am going to make it about me. I'm going to go Michael Ballack.
That was inevitable.
Yeah. You know what? I think, Jack, you gave me a little push towards that. But you can both see why. And there's no clear winner. And I love that you put Fabregas forward there, Jack, because he wasn't someone that initially came into my head. And Mata, likewise, a really popular pick. And I think if we put a poll out on these 4 players, I might actually do it later. Be very interesting to see who was selected, because it is so close. But I'm going to go Ballack, and I think we should move on because this could go on for a while. But
it's okay. You just want to make it all about you. That's fine. That's fine, Dom. Yeah.
I'm gonna put Ballack in. He is in there. Ballack's in the 11. Right. What are we going to do now? We've finally just got the 3 attackers. And we agreed, didn't we? We're going to play left winger and a right winger, and then and the 1 striker. So shall we go to the left winger first? Jack, do you want to start on the left winger? Yeah,
for me, there's been a lot of good players left wing for Chelsea. I used to absolutely love watching Malouda play in the past, but for me, it has to be Hazard. Just through the longevity of being at Chelsea. Probably not always in the best Chelsea teams as well, but he was always the one player which always stood out, and always for moments as well. He's won games on his own, standout performances. I mean, the Europa League final, the assist to Giroud, and just the overall performance was just incredible. And he's just a really good player on the eye, Hazard, and he's done it over a number of years. I know since he's left Chelsea, he's not been the most fortunate with injuries at Real Madrid, but in his time at Chelsea, he's of all the good things that have happened, he's been a pivotal part of it since he's been at Chelsea. So yeah, it had to be Hazard for me. Yeah, I suspect Josh gone the same. We'll go to him in a second. I think it's a really great point though you make about not playing in the best Chelsea teams, because he has played in some really good Chelsea teams. But say you chuck him in that the 04-05 era around there, and it just goes up another level. Like for me,
when I started getting into Chelsea, the most talented player at the time was Zola. Now look, that was just before the time period we're doing. But beyond that, in terms of just talent, individual ability, I mean, Hazard has got to be possibly top, because the things he could do on a football pitch, and he's that one player that just gives us something. We don't really have a player like that, and they're pretty hard to find, to be honest. But just when he's on the pitch and he get the ball, he might not even have the best of games, but he can just produce something. He's a player that obviously the fans loved, and Hazard, I'm a fanboy of his, so a massive Hazard fan. Josh, have you gone Hazard, or what have you done on the left wing?
No, I have gone Hazard. I don't think you can sort of argue with it. Not sort of much left really to say that neither of you have said. Again, I would echo Jack in that Malouda for a time I thought was brilliant. But no, it has to be Hazard, doesn't it? And for me, the biggest thing was actually that he wasn't always playing in the best Chelsea team, yet he sort of dragged us. Not dragged, that's perhaps not the right word, but sort of he was influential in still having some success. And just what he contributed overall was just fantastic.
I think what you say there is Don, though. He never shied away. He might not have the best game, but he never shied away from the ball. He was always the one player trying to make something happen and get on the ball, however good a game he was having. And for me, that's what makes a top player, because the top players produce in games where they're not playing as well as well. And for me, Hazard did that regularly. He was always on the ball, always trying to influence the whole game rather than, just his own performance. And yeah, he's definitely in the team for me.
Obviously, there was that season when nobody played well in the whole year, apart from actually William played well. And then Hazard scored that famous goal against Tottenham, didn't he? I mean, he just produced brilliant moments. I think there was a goal, I can't remember who it was against, it might have been United. Anyway, he's picked it up sort of in his own half, and he's just manhanded. He's really strong, isn't he? He's got that low centre of gravity. But players like that, he's deceptively strong. You can't get the ball off him. And when he gets going, he's so agile. And yeah, I think this has got to be one of the easiest picks in the team. And I had Hazard in mine as well. So we'll add in there. We'll go to the right wing now. And for me, this was the other really interesting pick in the team. That right-hand side for us is interesting. Josh, I'll let you go first on this one. Who have you got on the right wing? Because I'm really intrigued to see.
Well, I might just have to say this and just walk away. It'll be one of those that you either agree with me and can see my logic, or you want me shot. So I've gone Arjen Robben. Again, he was only at Chelsea a brief period, but how good he was. I mean, for me, he was one of the first players that, you sort of imitated him in your back garden type thing. He was just brilliant. His pace, the pace of his turn, like he was just fantastic, and chipped in with a lot of goals as well. So, I mean, the looks on both your faces, I'm nervous now. But yeah, no, I have gone Arjen Robben. And you have to look at what else he's gone on to do in football as well. Obviously, he moved around a bit, but, won trophies in Spain, won trophies a lot of trophies in Germany. So yeah, no, Arjen Robben for me was that man. I wish he'd have stayed longer.
Yeah, I wasn't looking at you for that. I'll let you know who I put in a minute after Jack. I was looking at you because I'm pretty sure you're a centre half, and I can't imagine you in the garden turning quick like Arjen Robben.
I was doing my best, mate. I was doing my best. I was trying.
Jack, have you seen it the same way? Because there's quite a few candidates for me. Who have you gone on the right?
Yeah, don't worry, Josh. You're not the only one getting shot here. I've also gone for Arjen Robben.
Yes.
For me, this was really tough between Robben and Willian. Willian is obviously more longevity at Chelsea, had some incredible years, incredible moments as well. I just remember the Tottenham performance last season, and unbelievable. Like I think it was just after Christmas or just before, and he absolutely ran that game. But he's been doing it in the Chelsea shirt for obviously years. But for me, natural talent, Robben was just one of the best. And like Josh said, like everyone wanted to be Robben at one point. Like he was that good. I'd argue Robben has actually got better since he left Chelsea. I mean, some of the performances for Bayern Munich in the Champions League in particular, for Netherlands at the big tournaments. And there was that thing with Robben where everyone knew what he was going to do, cut on in his left foot. but nobody knew how to stop it because no defence was quick enough, and he was that agile a player. That for me, he has to go in the team. He's just such a naturally gifted player for me.
Yeah, he was, especially in the Chelsea era, obviously he developed as a player at Bayern. I remember him just being lightning quick. He was so quick, wasn't he, at the start? I'm actually upset with both of you for not mentioning a couple of players here. I will say, first of all, just so we can do it, I have Robin in my team. So for the fact I'm about to have a go at you both, I have got Robin in my team. So what we'll do is we'll stick him in there, and Robin is in the team. So I'll run through the 11 in a minute. But two players I've got, alongside Robin as well, interchangeable in terms of the wing. I know we're always going to put Hazard on the left, but all three of these players, I think, can play either side. So I had Robin in the 11, but the two players that I've not heard either of you mention are Joe Cole and Damien Duff. Now,
right, I'm stopping you there. Perhaps we should have, discussed this beforehand. I have got, as I said before, I've got a list of players that I wanted to give a special mention to. Duff isn't there, but Joe Cole definitely is. And now I'll pass it you back, and you can talk about him. But do not bash me for not mentioning Joe Cole. I'm not having it.
We'll get to Duff in a minute. Then we'll start with Joe Cole. You say you wanted to mention him. What have you got to say for yourself?
I'm just going to say one statement, and I don't care. Most underrated player in the Premier League history ever.
Well, clearly not. You didn't even mention him a minute ago.
No, because I was going to mention him. We were talking about pure starting 11, and then you just changed the format mid-video, and I'm leaving.
No, we're nearly at the end anyway, so please stay. Joe Cole. All right, I'll let you off. He was underrated. I absolutely fell in love with Joe Cole as a youngster. I honestly just absolutely love Joe Cole. Neutrals will all think of Joe Cole and they'll think of that England goal, won't they? That's what they'd sort of jump to. As a Chelsea fan, I don't know if you have the same. I think of the goal against United with the ridiculous, I think it was against Rio Ferdinand, little 2 touches and finish. One of the best goals that I actually remember in recent history from a Chelsea player. Disgusting goal. Joe Cole, did you at least think about him? Come on, give me some love for Joe Cole.
I had Cole and Duff also on my special mentions list.
Okay.
But as a non-Chelsea fan, I think the thing for Cole for me was, one, he was just in that era where I was just growing up, so I didn't really see the best. I saw bits of him, but not loads of him. He was obviously incredible, but as a neutral fan, a lot of the football I saw Joe Cole play was hampered with injuries.
Yeah.
He couldn't get a consistent run of games, couldn't find that form because of the injuries. So there's also that slight doubt in my mind about, obviously he was incredible at Chelsea, everyone knows that, but over his whole career, Joe Cole in my head just doesn't stick out like an Iron Robin sticks out in my head.
Fair enough.
And yeah, Duff for me was also a very good player, but I don't ever think he was that top bracket of player. Very consistent, very, very good left foot and very good crosser of the ball. But I think he's a Premier League great, not a Premier League legend, and similar with Chelsea too.
Yeah, fair enough. At the start, during that first Jose team, we had Duff and Robin, and I was doing some research the other week on it. On the Twitter, and they were quite interchangeable on the wings, so they both could play there. And it was a time when they were both quite young and just pace. And that team there, we sort of similar to the team we built. It had the solid base, and then we just let the attackers go, and that was it, because those two were flying machines. But I suppose, Robin, bit more guile, and obviously if you chuck Hazard into that, just ridiculous there. So I'll let you both off, but I just think those two deserve a huge mention, because when I think of that, Chelsea era that we just had, those pop into my head straight away. Maybe that's nostalgia, and I just love those players. But do you know what? I almost forgot that we haven't done the striker, have we? We haven't, have we?
Not yet, no.
For some reason, I had it in my head that we'd done it. Maybe that's just.
We're down to 10 men.
Yeah. I don't know how. For some reason, I thought we'd finished the video there. We haven't. We've got arguably the most important position on the pitch, because Frank will score the goals, but we need someone at the top to put the ball in the net. Striker, Jack, who's the striker? Are you gonna freak me out
for
here?
me,
Who have you got?
Yeah, for me, it has to be Alexandra Pato. No, it's not. It's Didier Drogba, obviously. When he first came to the Premier League, he was the first striker I really, truly loved in the league. He just scored all types of goals, just an absolute powerhouse. You know, you couldn't stop him right foot, left foot, physical, just couldn't stop all the headers. He was just an all-rounder, and he could play as a two. He obviously often played on his own, and just what he brought to the club in a time when, you know, we really needed a striker. I mean, he was incredible. I mean, the Champions League winning side, he just epitomises that whole thing with, I mean, his goal, the header, and then the penalty to win the actual tournament. I mean, yeah, Costa for me deserves a really, really big shout, but he's nowhere near in this team for me because Drogba just, he takes the place.
Yeah, I don't think you have any Chelsea fan arguing. We'll talk about some of the other, you know, possible candidates in a minute. But Josh, give me some love for Drogba. I'm assuming that's who you've got anyway.
Yeah, no, I have gone Drogba. Again, this was actually my easiest pick because, you know, like you think of the Champions League win, potentially harsh on Lampard, Cech and Terry, but I think of Drogba. So, you know, everything Jack just said couldn't be truer. He was absolutely brilliant. So, yeah, he's in the team. I do want to give a little mention to Costa. I know we sort of did have a brief chat about that off screen. And also we have mentioned him in previous videos. Idiger Johnson for me. Okay, sort of there's a bit of a crossover. He came in before Abramovich and then obviously he did a couple of seasons before he went off to Barcelona. Wasn't necessarily the most prolific player, but as we've sort of discussed previously, but, you know, his overall work rate and everything that he brought to the team and the goals he did score were important. So no, I do want to just shine a little bit of a light on Good Johnson.
Yeah, the first legend talk as well.
See, yeah. I told you it worked. Don, we've got fans.
Yeah, Good Johnson definitely mentioned. Drogba's in my team, so he's taking the final spot. He's just everything you want in a striker. He doesn't. I think 100 off the top of my head, 164 goals. I'll be annoyed if I've got that wrong. From Drogba.
Do you want me to check?
I think Mourinho had about 700 goals, didn't he?
You can check that while I eulogise about Drogba, but he could just do everything. He might not have the top. The point was he might not have the top goals, but he's just the character. I think if you were in the opposition dugout or in the opposition tunnel and you saw Drogba standing across from you, you would just know, right, this is it. I'm in for a game here. Any centre-back must have hated playing against him. He could do everything, couldn't he? Have you got the result there?
I have, yeah. I know. I'm feeling a little bit smug. So what was your guess?
Well, I said 164. You better not have got this off Wikipedia, otherwise it don't count.
No, I've got this off Chelsea's website.
Go on.
157.
You were close. So you were in the ballpark.
Yeah.
No, Jack, don't make this any better for him. He's made it all about him.
Do you know what? I'll check that after the video because I think he might be on there. But I
think half of those came against Arsenal as well, didn't they?
Yeah, Arsenal absolutely hated him. Special shout out to a mate of mine called Matt, who is an Arsenal fan. And you know what? I think it's one of them where even he can appreciate Didier Drogba as a player, even though he tormented Arsenal. But what a player. Quickly mention Costa then, because he was a slightly, it was a different era, wasn't it? Obviously, old Drogba came back, if you remember. He came back again. But that was never going to tarnish, what he achieves in the Chelsea shirt. But Costa, when Drogba sort of, was coming to the end of his career, I was like, oh, when are we going to find like another, bullish, aggressive striker? Costa was even more aggressive, wasn't he, Jack? Because he was just a monster nightmare to play against. I obviously don't want to swear in the video, but he, you can imagine what opposition fans and players thought of him.
I think Costa is that player that if he plays for your team, you absolutely love him. If you play against him, you couldn't think of anyone worse in the world, honestly. He's that type of player. He will do everything he can for the team, everything he can to win a game. And, I mean, the Conte title winning season, he was just, him, Fabregas, Hazard, they were all just fantastic. And what I like about Costa is he wasn't actually blessed with loads of pace, but he was really good on the ball still, and he did score all types of goals. But just his aggressive nature and his willing to win. You know, he's just one of them players that a bit of a cult hero, really. And you need someone like that in order to win titles, in my opinion.
Definitely. Okay, I think we'll wrap it up there. But let me tell you the team. So we've got Petr Cech in goal, back four of Ivanovic, Carvalho, Terry, and Cole. Midfield three of Makelele, Holding, with Ballack and Lampard. And then we've got the front three of Robben, Drogba, and Hazard. If you agree or disagree, put it in the comments. And I think what we'll do is we'll tweet the video out, and please reply to it and let us know what you think. There's a few controversial ones in there. You might agree or disagree. I think, Josh, you're going to have a few stern words with me after because you're not happy with a couple of those. But
yeah, no, this will actually be the last episode I'm involved in.
Yeah, big thanks for all the support on the channel. And follow us on Twitter. It's at Chelsea_debate, and our Instagram as well, which is _Chelsea_debate. So I want to say a big thanks to you, Jack, for coming on. Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been really fun. Glad to finally get the call up, first cap for the Chelsea debate. Hopefully many more to come.
Yeah,
there won't be actually, Jack, because after your contributions today, Azpilicueta and Kante have put in transfer requests. So well done, mate.
Oh God, I'm putting in a transfer request as well. I'm off to the Man United debate.
But we'll if this goes down well, we'll do some more of these videos. I think we've got a few other ideas for you in terms of maybe tier lists and a bit more fun. But this was a bit more light-hearted today, and I hope you enjoyed it. Josh, thanks as always for coming on as well. All right, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks.